What does not get done in your law firm if you don't do it yourself? Do you understand leverage, and do you know how to use leverage to grow your law firm and be more successful? If you don't understand leverage, tune in and find out how to use it.
You are listening to the Prosper Law Podcast. Learn how to reduce stress, have more time, and make more money. Come on in.
I'm Greg McCollum, and I built a 7-figure criminal defense law firm. I formed Prosper Law to show criminal defense law firm owners who are desperate for success how to grow from under $200,000 to $1 million and beyond. 2 questions I ask you is that, do you understand leverage? And can you, when I say that, can you think of examples of how you're using leverage in your law firm? Can you immediately think of things that you do to use leverage to make your law firm grow faster, bring in more clients, bring in more money, take things off of your plate? And or another way to look at it is that what gets done if you don't do it yourself? You know, there's that old adage, if you want something done right, do it yourself. And I think a lot of lawyers fall into that trap, and I'll call it a trap because what it does is it traps you and keeps you small. So just the fact that you can do something better than anyone else, and so then you have to step up and do it because you're a lawyer and you care about your clients, you care about the quality of your work. Most lawyers are very particular and they want things done right. And it's very important that things are done right. And so you look at it and say, well, I'm going to do this myself. And so then what happens is you start pulling more and more things into your sphere and more things that you have to do. And the intention is good because what you intend is to take care of your clients, make sure you do the best job, and you don't want to be kept up at night. You don't want to be tossing and turning when you should be sleeping and resting because you're concerned that somebody isn't doing it the way you would. And that's fine if you never want to grow, because if you do everything yourself, you know, you have 168 hours in a week. And so a lot of the things that need to be done are time consuming. And so if you continue to do that, then nothing changes. If you look at other law firms that seem to be successful and you're looking at them from the outside in and going, how do they do that? I don't understand. I don't understand how they can represent so many people, or I don't understand how they could do such a great job. I don't understand how it seems like they're really living more of a stress-free life than I am. The answer is that they're using leverage. So what is leverage? Now, everybody should know what leverage is. But the definition, because it's all, you know, we're lawyers, so let's go back to the definition. Using a tool like a lever to multiply your force, making it easier to move a heavy object. Okay? So using a lever like a tool to multiply your force. And that's what leverage is. That's what leverage will do for you in your law firm. So in your law firm, what is your lever? What is the lever? Because you think of, you know, a lever as basically a big plank or pole or something, you know, with on top of a rock or something, and you're lifting the boulder up like you're building the Great Pyramids or something. So you understand that you couldn't move this stuff without the leverage, without the lever. And what's leverage in your law firm? Leverage in your law firm basically is just people, more people whose job it is to do that one thing. And a lot of small business owners, a lot of lawyers certainly, It's certainly true in my case. We go out and we say, well, we're gonna try to grow, we're gonna try to improve our life. So let's hire somebody. You say you read a business book. They says, well, what you need to do is you need to hire people. You need more people to get more work done. And then you go and hire somebody, and it's a disaster. And you say, well, that didn't work. That was a disaster. The disaster is not in the concept. The failure there is in you hired the wrong person, and or you weren't clear with the person about what their role was, and you didn't explain that to them properly, because you're the kind of person that basically knows everything. And I don't mean that in any kind of sarcastic matter. You really are the kind of person that knows everything. And so you didn't take the time to realize that they don't know what you know, and you didn't take the time to train them properly. The other part of it is that probably you hired the wrong person. And that's a whole nother podcast, because to hire people, you need to know what you're looking for. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're looking for, say you're hiring a paralegal, or you're hiring a legal assistant, or even if you're hiring a lawyer. Just any old paralegal, any old legal assistant won't do. You go back and you look at, what are you looking for in that person, and what skills do they have, but more importantly, what attitude do they have? For us, people that come to work in our law firm Complete Legal Defense team, we want them to have some skill set, but in today's world, everybody under a certain age can type. Everybody under a certain age can use a computer. Everybody under a certain age understands technology and how to go through all the computer programs and apps and everything that are just part of daily life. These kids that grew up playing video games and on their phone as teenagers, they've got the basic skill sets. Sometimes when you go and hire a qualified paralegal, it's not even the best choice, because you're bringing in somebody that they're in this rut, they're in this groove, they're not willing to be open to doing things in a better way. They're looking at it that this is the way it was always done, and so they're closed up about it. And so now you brought in someone basically like you, and that's nothing new. That's not some great idea. So you want to always be, slow to hire and quick to fire. And the main reason you want to be slow to hire is because you don't want to bring in the wrong person, because that doesn't move you forward. In some respects, it slows you down or makes things worse, because training somebody, bringing somebody on board, and then if you have to terminate them or they get frustrated and quit, then you're back to square one, but you're really worse than square one because of the time that passed and some of the mistakes that they've made. So you want to be looking for A players to begin with, certainly B players, and I don't have time to go into what that is, but there are other podcasts and trainings we do on that. So the other thing you have to be careful of is that when you say to yourself, or you hear yourself saying to someone else, I tried that and it didn't work, then I want you to recognize that what you were doing is you're proclaiming or espousing a very kind of middle class mindset, and you're not looking at it the way that you need to look at it, because we're all brought up that we go to school, they check our attendance. Some schools have dress codes. You have behavior rules, and then you take a test, and you have to succeed on the test. So as a student, and you take a test, and you don't do well on the test, that's bad. Really, the learning part of it is almost irrelevant. What you're supposed to do is succeed and never fail. if you took a hard class, whether like in high school or college or something, and you didn't pass, from the mindset that we're all brought up with, that's an unacceptable failure. You hear people say failure is not an option. But I'm here to tell you failure is the only option, because the odds are that somebody like you or somebody like me or somebody like the most successful people in the world don't have failures. That's a myth. The failures are what move you forward. So when you sit there and say, I tried that, it didn't work, and you let that stop you, then you're missing the opportunity to have real success. Now, you don't want to fail at everything you do, but there are lessons in that. And if you look at it, you think, well, this I tried this, the concept was good, but the implementation of it was bad. So if you let that stop you, then nothing's ever going to change. Okay. So have I hired people that I shouldn't have hired? Yes. Have I hired people that I didn't train properly? Yes. Did I let that stop me? No. I kept going. I kept learning. I kept looking for people, and now have a decent system for finding A players. And I don't find them necessarily from other law firms, because I'm looking for the person more so than the skill set, based on what I said earlier. If they can function, if they can communicate properly in the English language or maybe the Spanish language, depending on what the case may be, and they can come in and work with our team, and they're excited and they're energetic and they're hungry, humble, and smart, I can train them. We can show them how to run a court docket. We can show them how to do intake with clients. We can show them what we're supposed to do. We can teach them that working with our law firm, there are confidentiality rules, not just attorney-client privilege. What we do for people is confidential, and that's another whole podcast about the violations that you see with that, and how a lot of lawyers really somehow miss that. So, but we can train them on that. For example, in my office, Fatima, who does social media and is doing it successfully, she can explain to you the rules of professional responsibility maybe better than some lawyers do, because a lot of lawyers hire a marketing company, they start doing something, and the next thing you know, they violated the rules of professional responsibility. They're in trouble with the disciplinary council. That's what we have in South Carolina. And so they've publicly violated the ethics code, and we don't do that. Why don't we do that? Now, how did I find Fatima? I ask my A players who work for me, who do they know? I ask them all the time to be thinking about, who do you think that would be a good fit? So we actually recruited Fatima out of an IHOP in Central Florida. She was at an IHOP restaurant in Central Florida before she came to work for the Complete Legal Defense Team. So that's the kind of thinking that we do and the kind of actions that we take, because I don't necessarily want to get the paralegal that worked for 3 law firms before coming to my law firm, and she comes in and she or he comes in, they're completely closed off to all possibilities. So finding the right person. Now, if you bring in the wrong person and it doesn't work out and you have to let them go, then that just is a lesson, but you don't stop, because you if you're going to grow your law firm, more or less you have to have this leverage, because you can't do it all yourself. So in an earlier part of my life, I built up a big real estate portfolio. I had $5 million worth of real estate. I had a net worth of $2 million. This is before the crash in 2008. So how did I do that? I used leverage. I used money and borrowing money with either little or no down payment, which allowed me to build that portfolio. And I had I had around 50 houses and duplexes. And then I started getting into townhouses and condos. But I had, 50 houses. Okay. I couldn't go out and buy $5 million worth of houses. Right. I was only making, $200,000 a year at the time. So I didn't use my money. If you know anything about real estate, other people's money. That's leverage. Now, in Complete Legal Defense Team, we didn't grow, well beyond seven figures because I did everything. We have our case count is right now probably maybe we do 320 files a year, ballpark. Felonies, serious felonies, also DUIs and summary court. But the bulk of a lot of our cases are, serious felonies. And we're in multiple courts. We're in multiple counties. We're in multiple jurisdictions. Right now, my three lawyers, as I'm recording this, on a weekday, my lawyers they're in court all the time. They're always in court. Okay, I can't be everywhere, but even they can't be everywhere. So there are more of them, and that's what causes it to work. So I can give you some examples of leverage. One is that, less than about a year ago, we started, a TikTok campaign, and it took a while to get it going, but really about maybe June or something of 2025 is when we really got it rolling, because there's certain things that had to happen. One is that we were going to post a video 3 times a week, and we're going to post it on the same day at around the same time every week. So that means Fatima has to script that, plan that, get team members and people that work in our law firm to show up for the shoot skit things they do inside the office. That's a system. If I did that myself, it would be impossible to get that done. So that's one example. And surprisingly, and I was very skeptical about this because I'd been to seminars and I'd seen other lawyers that had, really taken off with TikTok. And I thought, this is crazy for all these reasons. One is that, the people watching your TikTok aren't in your jurisdiction. If people love my TikTok channel, in Missouri, in Texas, in California, they're not really potential clients. So I thought, how's this going to work? Well, as it turns out, we got 2 cases, fairly serious cases, off of the TikTok within a couple of months. So, but that runs without me. That's leverage. And also, Fatima understands ethics. She understands what has to be in it and what cannot be in it. They're getting ready to do a TikTok with a very happy, satisfied client. And so just yesterday, we went over the disclosure that the client's going to sign. Because if we put that client out there on our TikTok and talk about his case, we have clearly violated the rules that legal representation is confidential. Okay, so we're not going to violate it. And then the actual structure of the thing, she knows how to do it so that everything that's in it, the disclosures are there. And also the final step will be she will be sending this to our ethics lawyer for him to sign off on it. So that's leverage. I couldn't do that myself. I cannot do that myself. And also, there's certain formulas and themes in TikTok that I really don't know about. I've learned a little bit about them, but I'm also not going to be there sitting there keeping up with all that. Now, other forms of leverage. And we have, I have an accountant. I have a bookkeeper. I say accountant, I'm really a bookkeeper. I hate keeping the books. I don't want to keep the books. And so someone does that for me. That's leverage. I have a client intake team. All right. I mean, yesterday we were meeting, I think, with 2 or 3 clients simultaneously who were in the process of retaining us. Even if I could do that better than anybody else, which really I cannot, I cannot be in 3 rooms at the same time. So that's leverage. We do some Google pay-per-click. I have somebody that manages that. Now, he's outside the office. I've known him forever. I consider him one of the best people. Leverage, search engine optimization, SEO. I have an SEO manager. Recently, we opened an office in Georgetown, South Carolina, and before, when we've done that, I was the one that went to get it verified. If you verified anything on Google lately, you understand how you have to go, you have to shoot a video, it has to have the road sign in the video, it has to be continuous, you have to show the office, you have to show your signage and these things. Well, my team members went down there and did that, and then it failed. So they went back and did it right, and now it's verified. Will it stay verified? We're watching it, and we're doing certain things with it to try not to, get knocked off of Google, because that's a disaster. But so far, it's working. I think we're solid, and we're already ranking. Trial lawyers, my trial lawyers, they're leverage. They're out there doing the work that needs to get done. Our own call intake specialists, they're out there. Sometimes we get multiple calls coming in during the day and also in the evening and on weekends. I can't talk to 2 or 3 people simultaneously. And then this way, our potential clients aren't kept waiting. That's leverage. How we manage that with an answering service to filter that, that's leverage. So when you're looking at your law firm, pay attention, okay? And think about what simple improvements you can make. And don't go try to change everything in a week or a day. Change one thing at a time. And I would point out to you, there's some simple, depending on what level you're at, but there's some simple, easy improvements. If you're practicing without an assistant, in other words, I know lawyers who, we call it, practicing on a cell phone out of their car. Get an assistant. That's easy. That's leverage. Your email, all the emails that come to you for court and everything else, copy your office manager, copy your paralegal on that. Have that just forwarded to them so somebody else is looking at that. Now, ideally, you should be able to just glance at it and know that they've got it done. Because like in my law firm, we've got send and delete people working there. And these are people that if I ask them to do something, it's done. I don't have to follow up. Stop doing your own bookkeeping. Get an answering service, okay? All of these things will help you. So it's not complicated. Nothing I talk about, nothing that any other business success coaches talk about, none of this is really new. These are just basic business principles that people have done, for decades or centuries. There's technology changes, but the system, nothing really is new. And so it's not magic. It's just, but it will work. And it's something that I've seen it. I've seen it in my own law firm. I see it with the members of Prosperate Law who are coaching with me and working with us. It will work if you give it a try. So I hope this is helpful. See you next time.
If you want to know more, go to prosperatelaw.com. We show criminal defense law firm owners how to reduce stress, have more free time, and make more money. Thanks for listening.